Many people might know Karen over the phone or by email, having dealt with her over many years in the business. With Mother's Day coming up, just thought I'd do a little sit-down video with you. And firstly, I probably should say thanks for bringing me into the business as a 18-year-old. You and Dad giving the license to let me try and figure out what I wanted to do. One of the big questions that I've always had is being a nurse previous to coming into real estate as a business owner. Like, what was it that made you shift your career path to being in property management and business ownership?
Well, nursing at the time in the early 90s is no less simple than it is now, and really it was politics, the red tape, the nonsense, the time that was taken away from actually looking after patients was heartbreaking. I worked in a high-end, high-stress, high-acuity area, so the patients were always really sick. Delivering bad news to people was constant, but the backup from and support from further up the line was less than ideal. And so by having our own business, we could actually improve on that and hope to provide good supports to staff and also to communicate well. Much like nursing, property management in particular is very much a communication-based business. But as is sales, you need to treat your clients with respect, truthfully, and outline what it is you're going to do and then do it.
And was there like an aha moment when you made the shift over that you were like, yep, we've got this? It's a pretty big shift just to go, all right, we're just going to run a business now.
Well, I can tell you that we were running with a smaller franchise initially, and we were pretty much on our own, on our lonesome to make up how you did things. And really the main change in about 94 was Ray White and the systems that they had in place and have developed significantly since have really been instrumental in allowing us the longevity in the business.
Yeah, along with the right sort of values and principles about building successful relationships with people.
You've got to turn up, you've got to do what you say you're doing, and you really can't let the side down.
No, yeah, and I do remember, even as an 18-year-old, it's a little while ago now, but Dad said, if you want to be in real estate and you're promising to do things, like, you make sure you do them, otherwise, you won't be lasting very long. Yeah, do what you say attitude, go over and above, don't leave people disappointed by, not following through with what the expectations that you've set are.
Exactly, and many of your dad's clients are repeat clients over many years. Some of them we still manage their homes for them as a rental management, but some properties have sold multiple times, the same house, which then suggests that Michael did the right thing by not just the first client, but by the next client and the next client. And so developing that relationship and trust between multiple groups of people is integral to actually holding the business together.
Yeah, and I don't know whether or not this is a good memory or a bad way to think about things, but I know that 1,000% there were sacrifices that both you and Dad made when it came to, it might have been not being able to go to all the sporting events or seeing 100% of everything, whilst I know that there was definitely a lot of times at those events, Dad was always working Saturdays and Sundays and after hours. So, I think, there was probably some pretty significant sacrifices that he had to make, in order to kick the wheel down the road, so to speak, with, getting new clients, meeting their expectations, doing what he was saying he was going to do, and, achieving successful outcomes. Yeah, like you say, 2 or 3 or 4 times for the same property. How did you find that, in the moment?
I guess we discussed how this is going to work and what it meant. And having had the previous experience of nursing, I was working shift work. So there were many times when I was working And so I mostly did evenings and nights when you were young, because that fitted into the schedule of childcare, and that's what many nurses do. So I was accustomed to not always doing things with Michael, and he was accustomed to me not being home. So that transitioned into real estate really quite easily. But we didn't have the benefit of having family nearby that were able to help, which is why I find it so wonderful that we can help you with your family. With 3 young children, there's extracurricular activities. Amy's mum is able to help significantly as well. It's really important to be able to have that balance, and you appear to be able to separate and have some absolute family time and plan well, and plan around having events or holidays, which is really important.
Yeah, it's important to us as well. So yeah, it's good to sacrifice that time, but also you've got to make time as well when you can. Yeah.
In fact, I remember when Cam was playing footy as a 15-year-old. Cam played from juniors. And because Michael was working in real estate every Saturday and Sunday, he was not available to be there for the full game, and he didn't ever take on a role as a coach or an assistant. So he actually signed up as the team, as the boundary umpire. So he did the boundary umpiring for a couple of years. It kept him fit, but it also kept him engaged in what you were doing. And that was really important as a parent.
Yeah, no, I do remember. Every week he was doing the boundary umpiring.
So it's important to have conversations to say, hey, you can't get this time back. And that was the message that I tried to point out to your dad, that it's all very well to be earning lots of money, but you can't buy this time back.
You're trying to realise it in the moment, sometimes hard, because you got the demands of everything, and the business and family and clients' expectation, and you want to do better and you want to do more, and there's always more out there. So.
And technology has changed significantly in the last 5 years. Clients' expectations
has gone up as well.
Have exceeded what is perhaps reasonable. And so as an employer, we can say, okay, well, we can't force or enforce staff to be available after hours. But if you've got a tenant whose hot water system's burst through the roof, or they've got no power on Easter Sunday, or there's a fence that's blown down in a storm and they've got children and the dog's got out of the yard because there's no fence, then they actually do appreciate you answering a phone call.
You can't just ignore it.
No, and even if you can't do anything about it, I've talked tenants through water leaking through a roof, through a light fitting, and trying to isolate water. And of course, they haven't got any power, they can't see. So talking them through how to find the meter box in the dark with their phone torch, because technology allows us to do that. And it's interesting learning, and one's never surprised, what people don't actually think of themselves in the moment of their panic and their disaster. And no, I'm sorry, but it's raining and I can't get somebody on your roof in the middle of the night. We'll get someone to come out to you in daylight when it's safe. And yes, you might be inconvenienced for a few hours, but I'll call you back tomorrow. We'll talk about it. So really, I guess empathy is also important.
Being available.
Being available to an extent, but also being empathetic. So you can't fix everything, and nor should you try, and don't promise that something that you can't sort quickly, but at least check in with them again to say, look, how's it going? We've organised generators for tenants, all sorts of things. Do you need an esky? We offer all sorts of things within reason when it's appropriate.
Yeah, I think one of the benefits of having grown up in our family was you didn't really let us slack off too much as I tried. It was definitely never any free kicks, for taking a day off or, chucking a sickie. It was, if you're, feeling slightly less than okay, you can still go to school and you can still, and if you are sick, okay, you come into the office and...
So you didn't get a day off unless you were bleeding or on fire?
Yeah, pretty much. So it was, yeah, maybe a little bit harsh, but yeah, certainly I think it put, into me, going into a real estate career that, hey, look, if you're slightly feeling off, that doesn't matter. Your client's expectations are still there. The client's needs are still there. You might not feel 100% of the best, but you still have to rock up, because rocking up is better than, absconding completely and not, trying to do the things that you told that client that you were going to be doing. So, yeah, it's...
Well, we hope to instill a good work ethic in both you and your sister. And I mean, if you were seriously ill or you're contagious, well then no, we didn't make you go to school. But I remember...
You could tell when we weren't.
Well, that's right. I didn't have a temperature, and the best thing was to make you come to the office and lie on a mattress with a pillow in a dark area with nothing to do. And that was pre-tablets or mobile phones. So it was really boring.
Yeah.
And you didn't really want to do that, so you might as well go to school. Yeah, go to school. Yeah. Further to that, when Cam was in year 12, he developed glandular fever. But he didn't know that he had glandular fever until he actually was in the recovery phase. Because we went to the Eastern States for business and came back and he said, "Oh, Mum, I really don't feel well. My throat's really sore, and I think I've got swollen glands." And he was driving. I said, "Well, make yourself a doctor's appointment. Off you go." And oh yeah, the markers show that I'd had glandular fever. But he'd been in a cross-country carnival and an athletics carnival, and he'd gone to school every day. He was playing footy, and he showed up for his team and didn't have any time off. Yeah. Which is actually not necessarily a great thing, because it can be dangerous. But it was soldier on. Yeah. I'm expected to be there, so I'll be there. And look, I think that's probably been evident in your sister as well. She's not shirked her turning up to work because she didn't feel too well. It's to turn up, and because if you don't turn up, you don't get paid.
Well, and like Dad was always pretty big with saying to me on things, if we were going to do things, that you had to give it a 12-month commitment. Like when I first started in real estate, that was you can't come around unless it's 12 months. Don't bother coming, to the office unless you can promise me that it's going to be 12 months. It was the same, with some sports, footy, kickboxing, growing up. It was, if you're going to do it and you sign up, you can't just go for 1 or 2 weeks and then quit. If you're signing up for the first week, you're going in for 12 months.
We also encouraged you and your sister to do things to the best of your ability. We didn't really care whether you were not the best runner or the best swimmer or the best whatever at art or maths or whatever it might be. But the more you practiced, the more you went to training, the more you tried stuff, the better you became at it. And for many of those areas in your life, you excelled. But you excelled...
I wouldn't have said maths, but yeah.
But for many of the areas, you excelled comparatively because you practiced.
No, I think it was just a drive to be like, well, you've said you're going to do it, so get it done. Mainly, I think, from Michael in sales, that, being given permission to sell the home, that's a commendable thing that someone's given you their, home to sell. They've trusted you. You've said you're going to do these things. Do it the best you can. There's no, calling in sick for a home open or...
And you need to be present.
Yeah, and not rocking
when
up,
you're there.
Slightly under the weather because you wanted to go out the night before, or you're rocking up late, or untidy, or you forgot things, or you didn't bring the keys. You're organised as best you can, and present as best you can. So know your product, know the home, know all the questions that the buyers might ask you so that you can answer it. If you don't know it, don't pretend to know it. You're trying as best you can to give truthful information, and if you don't know that, don't pretend to know it. Go and find it out and then give that information. So I think Dad was pretty big on that, and I think that really comes down to like what your values are as a person, and how proud you are of every transaction, how proud you are of every interaction that you have with a buyer, that you get things right the first time. If you don't know them, don't pretend, you know. And I think one of the things that I remember most about giving information to buyers or sellers or whatever it might be is pretend whoever is asking you the question already knows the answer. Pretend they already know it and they're just testing you. And that way you'll never catch yourself out if you're always asking that. You know, if legitimately you don't know about a property, if it's connected to sewer or what the zoning is, or something that they're asking you, if they ask you that question, you know, pretend that they already know and they're just testing to see how trustworthy you are as a person. After more than 30 years in the business, real estate industry, what do you think is the best lesson that you learned?
I think the best lesson, or the most important, is to trust yourself to actually be able to provide the service that you are offering. Because systems change along the way, information has changed, access to information has changed, technologies and systems changed, and so the most important thing is to trust yourself, that you can actually do the job.
Yeah, well, not to make you feel old, but the internet was only just coming around when you first went into business. So,
I know, and
you know, it's come a long way.
we were at a Ray White conference, and Michael was looking at the internet, and he had decided that this was going to be our real estate window, because we used to have cards in the window with pictures about properties for sale. And he asked Brian White at a conference about what's Ray White doing about the internet? And Brian said, oh, people won't be buying houses over the internet. And that was in 1994. Things do change, and rapidly. And I think the other thing is it's important to adapt to change. So I've been through implemented three different property management software programs over the years. The first one was in 2000, because the world was going to blow up because of Y2K. And then we switched over in 2018 to a much more superior product. And then last year we transitioned to a non-legacy platform. And so it's about trusting that I can do this. I'm going to trust that it'll work. I trust the information. I took some time to change to the last one because I didn't feel that it met the needs. But then once I got to a point where it didn't meet the needs sufficiently, then really it was no question, and we transitioned in a very short space of time.
After 30 years, like, if you had to start again, would you do anything differently?
Yes, I would have been more insistent on instilling some absolute systems in place sooner.
Is that just because there wasn't like the general industry standards, they lifted over that period of time, the systems got better? Was there any particular reason that you think that, or?
Historically, at least 25 years ago, property management was fairly loosely structured, and we had best practice, and the industry's now catching up, or has caught up, with what I consider to be best practice. So it's difficult to be one of a few that are insisting upon this is the minimum that you require. I don't believe it's actually ever stopped us attracting staff, because this is what we require. It's having staff catch up and
accept the new level of standard.
Accept this is our standard, and I'm sorry if I'm not making. I never made apologies for for doing the right thing.
Well, just having better expectations, for the clients, for their properties.
So I wouldn't ever change that. I've always been comfortable in picking up the phone and talking to people. That's not changed. Technology has enabled people to hide behind a screen or a phone, and then messages or emails might mount up, and then it becomes insurmountable. Whereas often, as you know, picking the phone up, you solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. So yeah, I wouldn't ever change that.
Go back to the old school basics. Talk to people on the phone, in person.
Yep, in person.
Solve problems quickly.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me, Mum. I really do appreciate everything that you and Dad sort of laid out for me. I found my entry into real estate and longevity into real estate are much easier than I'm sure most do, because you guys have laid out such strong foundations locally. People have great admiration for the legacy that you've built in real estate. They know that you're genuinely good people. Even still, last week, I get people, when we're doing, door knocking or, calling around to the neighbours of properties we've sold or listed, and they tell me, about how they bought the property or the land from Michael back in the 90s or 80s or early 2000s. So certainly getting that recognition and having that reputation locally, and coming into the industry, it was just almost like I feel it was like a cheat code a little bit, riding on the coattails. But those coattails, you've sort of instilled into me in terms of like the values and the principles of how you should act, and I just want to say thank you so much, and hopefully we can continue to grow the business to a new level. But even if we only kept it at the same, I'd be pretty happy with how long you guys have kept it running for. So thank you.
Oh, well, thanks, Cam. You talk about coattails. I think you might have had some coattails, but I think you've created a whole new lining. And any of the padding that's between the coattails and the lining, you've created. So you've created your own niche based on good values and integrity, and trying to run still a family-based oriented business, because this is a work family. And you treat the staff in that way. So we're ever so proud. So well done, Cam.